Wow. Oh, wow. Oh. Has to be God who spared my life. I would win Caliph if Jesus was voter counter. Former President Donald Trump. Waiting for a pizza. It, do you have the van? Are you having van pizza? Or regular pizza? Did you get the van? Donald Trump credited God for sparing his life from an assassin's bullet and insisted that he would win California if Jesus was the vote counter. What? Did he say that? That's funny. Did you not like it? Was it not what you were looking for? We got a new vehicle recently. We got rid of the sports car. I think I'd rather have a van, though, to be honest. A van's a quality-ass vehicle. Yeah, buying cars sucks. Buying cars, Kat will attest to this. I don't think there's any other area of life ever that I am as much of a total asshole. Have Joe talked to this? That's why. That's why. I bought and sold so many vehicles, probably upwards of 70, not 100, but close. It's got to be close. Closer to 100 than 50 in my lifetime. And so I've learned completely how to play the game, and I'm just a raging asshole. And I don't like it. I don't enjoy 1 minute of it. But I get the deal that I want. More often than not. It sucks, but you just have to be a total prick. It's a very unfortunate turn of events when you step foot on a dealership. It's very sad. It's very sad. I used to enjoy it. I don't enjoy it anymore. It makes me feel like a bad person. So he really did say that. That's funny. Former President Donald Trump credited God for sparing his life from an assassin's bullet and insisted that he would win California if Jesus was the vote counter. I feel like Trump has been talking more about God recently than in the past, but I'm not a good representation because I didn't really listen to him talk when he was president. Yeah, you got to talk her down. Got to talk her down, got to walk away 3 times, bail, have him chase after you. It's a whole thing. It's a whole game. It helps them too, because they have to go to their sales manager and be like, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. Do we need to get rid of the car or not? And then you got to think about taxes. After the vehicle's been on the lot for X amount of time, the taxes they pay are different. So that will change things. So it's very vehicle dependent. How long have they had it? It's just a whole game. Once you learn the game, it's very simple, but it's a complicated game. Trump sat down with talk show host Dr. Phil. Oh, I got to watch that. Dr. Phil has become incredibly based, wildly based over the past couple of years, I guess. It's been very interesting to see Dr. Phil do his flip-flop. I feel like he was not like that years ago. Very interesting. All right, my kiddo is back in school, so I have to start being promptly at 8 o'clock out of here on Thursday at least. Sunday, there's a little bit of leeway, not so much Thursday. So I'm gonna get reading in a second. So we read an ass load last week. Probably get through a bunch more tonight. And then we'll be edging on the end here. Trump's been on an interview tour. Yeah, I was listening to him before this on what's his name? Sean, the ex-CIA guy. Cat knows about him. But he was on there, and that was pretty good. I didn't finish it, but it was pretty good so far. Yeah, no, super dead. So whatever. Is this the one? Chapter. Yes. It was good. It was good. I like that guy. He's super monotone. Sometimes I have a hard time listening to him, which is very it's very hypocritical, I guess, because I'm fairly monotone too. But I just have a hard time listening to him sometimes. But he's got great guests, so I can't really complain. All right, this is where we're at. I'm just gonna just be chill tonight. It looks like it's just gonna be us until you have to go, or if you have to go. So I'm just gonna read. I don't really like him. Yeah, like he's good. He's just hard to listen to. He just he shows very little expression, but he does show it. It's I don't know. It's just he's not entertaining. It's good information. It's good content, but he's not entertaining whatsoever. But Trump was good on it. Trump was good on it. All right. How many times have I delivered thee out of his hand? Then Adam and Eve began again to come into the cave. And when they came to the way between the fire, Satan blew into the fire like a whirlwind and made on Adam and Eve a burning coal fire, so that their bodies were singed. And the coal fire scorched them. And from the burning of the fire, Adam and Eve cried aloud. Sorry, I need to make this bigger. I'm old. Cried aloud and said, O Lord, save us. Leave us not to be consumed and plagued by this burning fire, neither require us for having transgressed thy commandment. Then God looked upon their bodies, on which Satan had caused fire to burn. Does it say bum? Cause fire to bum? Can't tell if I'm just dumb or if that's a misprint. On which Satan had caused the fire to burn or bum. Unsure from my perspective. And God sent his angel that stayed the burning fire, but the wounds remained on their bodies. This is very odd. And God said unto Adam, see Satan's love for thee, who pretended to give thee the Godhead and greatness, and behold, he burns thee with fire and seeks to destroy thee from off the earth. Then look at me, O Adam, I created thee, and how many times I have delivered thee out of his hand? The fire was homeless. I delivered thee out of his hand. If not, would he not have destroyed thee? God said again to Eve, what is that he promised thee in the garden? Saying, at the time you shall eat of the tree, your eyes will be opened, and you shall become like gods, knowing good and evil. But lo, he has burnt your bodies with fire, and has made you taste the taste of fire, for the taste of the garden, and has made you see the burning of fire, and the evil thereof, and the power it has over you. Your eyes have seen the good he has taken from you, and in truth he has opened your eyes, and you have seen the garden in which you were with me. And you have also seen the evil that has come upon you from Satan. But as to the Godhead, he cannot give it to you, neither fulfill his speech to you. Nay, he was bitter against you and your seed that will come after you. I believe this is the first time we're seeing the term Godhead used. I would double check that, but I'm fairly confident that's the first time that pops up. I'd be curious about that. I'm also now curious if Godhead, an equivalent, is used specifically in the canon, because I don't believe it is. I don't believe it ever is. But I'm questioning that. There might be some places in the Old Testament that actually I want to make a note because I want to look at this later. All right, yeah, I'm curious. First time here, very confident. I think it might be used once. Okay, yeah, because I'm fairly certain it's not, but there's a small lingering part of me that thinks it's in there somewhere at some point. So I'd be curious to look into that. So I think I'm going to look into that. The devil's own scheming. Then Adam and Eve came into the cave. Yet trembling at the fire, they had scorched their bodies. So Adam said to Eve, lo, The fire has burnt our flesh in this world, but how will it be when we are dead? And Satan shall punish our souls. Is not our deliverance long and far off, unless God come and in mercy to us fulfill his promise? Then Adam and Eve passed into the cave, blessing themselves for coming into it once more, for it was in their thoughts that they never should enter it when they saw the fire around it. But as the sun was setting and the fire was still burning and nearing Adam and Eve in the cave, so that they could not sleep in it, after the sun had set, they went out of it. This was the 47th day after they came out of the garden. Numerology. Adam and Eve then came under the top of the hill by the garden to sleep, as they were wont. And they stood and prayed God to forgive them their sins, and then fell asleep under the summit of the mountain. But Satan, the hater of all good, thought within himself, whereas God has promised salvation to Adam by covenant, and that he would deliver him out of all the hardships that have befallen him, but has not promised me by covenant, and will not deliver me out of my hardships. Nay, since he has promised him that he shall make him and his seed dwell in the kingdom in which I once was, I will kill Adam. That's a really odd way of expressing that. Wait, what? TikTok? Get off TikTok? Turn on the mic. The mic is on. You mean the Discord thing? God, I'm sweating bullets. Yo, I'm here just late, and don't get me started on politics and that orange clown. We're not on TikTok. That's why I didn't say it, if that's what you're referencing. And the mic is on. The mic is on in Discord. The mic is on here. Or is that just your friendly reminder because I normally forget? I'm sure that's what it was. I did remember today. I remembered when nobody showed up. When nobody showed up. The day I remembered was the day it didn't matter. Okay, this is really odd, though. This is interesting, because I feel like it differs from a lot of the other... Because there were several other points where Satan was thinking to himself, where that way of speaking happened. But Satan, the hater of all good within himself, and then at other points it was Satan thought to himself. Satan's thoughts to himself were yada, yada, yada. And I feel like the internal dialogue was different. Maybe it just had a different feel. So that's something I'm also personally, I want to look at again. It feels different to me. It's coming across different. Just trying to fill my obligatory duties. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Continue to do so, please, because I'll still forget more than I don't. The earth shall be rid of him and shall be left to me alone, so that when he is dead, he may not have any seed left to inherit the kingdom that shall remain my own realm. Come back to that. God will then be in want of me and will restore me to it with my host. This is really interesting. This is a lot. There's a lot of connection to canon here, which is not always true for this text so far. The earth shall be rid of him, after he says, I will kill Adam, and shall be left to me alone. The earth, which he also said is his own realm, which connects pretty beautifully with what scripture talks about earth as well, which is this which is also a weird theological misunderstanding for like all of Christianity, is that the earth is God's somehow. And I'll just never understand it. I haven't read anywhere that that's the case. I've read everywhere, including the Apocrypha, that says the exact opposite. It's a very odd thing to me, always has been. Fifth apparition of Satan to Adam and Eve. After this, Satan called to his host, all of which came to him, and said unto him, O Lord, our Lord, what wilt thou do? He then said to them, you know that this Adam, who God created out of the dust, is he who has taken our kingdom. Come, let us gather together and kill him, or hurl a rock at him and at Eve and crush them under it. When Satan's hosts heard these words, they came to the part of the mountain where Adam and Eve were asleep. Then Satan and his hosts took a huge rock, broad and even, and without blemish, thinking within himself, if there should be a hole in the rock when it fall on them, the hole in the rock might come upon them, and so they would escape and not die. What an odd thought. He then said to his hosts, take up this stone and throw it flat upon them, so that it roll not from them to somewhere else. And when ye have hurled it flee and tarry not. It's the first time they've used that word. That's funny. And they did as he did, and they did as he bid them. But as the rock fell down from the mountain upon Adam and Eve, God commanded it to become a kind of shed over them that did them no harm. And so it was by God's order. But when the rock fell, the whole earth quaked with it and was shaken from the size of the rock. They dropped a mountain on these fools. Hosts like demons, right? Yes. Yeah, that was the one that you had missed. The last one before you came the first time, if that makes sense. It makes sense in my head, though. There was a lot of dialogue with the hosts and Satan. It was like a whole big thing. So, yeah, anytime that's what they're talking about. His little, minions. So this was a massive rock. Then Adam said to Eve, "Wherefore has the mountain bent itself, and the earth quaked and shaken on our account? And why has this rock spread itself over us like a tent? Does God intend to plague us and to shut us up in this prison? Or will he close the earth upon us?" So they think it's God doing it to them. "He is angry with us for having come out of the cave without his order, and for our having done so of our own accord, without consulting him, when we left the cave and came to this place." Then Eve said, "If indeed the earth quaked for our sake, and this rock forms a tent over us because of our transgression, then woe be to us, O Adam, for our punishment will be long." They are so damn pessimistic all the time. "But arise and pray to God to let us know concerning this, and what this rock is, that it spread over us like a tent." Then Adam stood up and prayed before the Lord to let him know about this strait. And Adam thus stood praying until the morning. They're so damn pessimistic. Missed? Dang it, I didn't know you were talking. You were taking attendance. Well, I notice, for the most part. Hosts are bodies that demons inhabit, so it could be people. That's a good point, yeah. So do you think that they're... I guess, I don't know, dude, it's so hard to talk about this shit, because I don't... You first have to decide what is literal and what is not, and then you have to decide, like, what plane is this happening on. But that makes me wonder if Adam and Eve were actually people, which is debatable. If they were, though, who were those people, and were they actually a part of humanity? If they were hosts, like bodies of humans, if they were people, what place did they play in the greater context of the history of the time? That's what I would wonder if that were the case. I raised my hand. I need to figure out how to... I need to figure out how to fix that. It's not going to be today, though. All right, you should be good. Yeah, I wonder if it's people. Or if it's something else. I lean towards something else, but I honestly hadn't thought that much into it. For Rodriguez, you should be good. Says it invite. There you go. Are you just getting ready? Okay. Yeah, you're good. Do you know, though? Because I don't. This is something I'd have to... I haven't ever done a word study on host. Yeah, right. No, you kind of like... The best you can do is... I don't remember what the... Oh, 1920s. No. You'd have to try to date it. Which I think we did that in the beginning. I think Scott helped us date it. But if you can date it, and then you can find other... You can date it, get the language, and then if you find anything from like that same close to period in the same language, you can use that. It's just not going to be as accurate, but it's something you could do. But I haven't even done it like with the canon. The host is not something I've necessarily ever looked that deep into. Oh, oh. All right, you guys should be able to hear her now. They couldn't hear you, Rodriguez. She asked about host. So, like the term host, and she said she uses a concordance, and because there's no concordance for what we're reading, it's very difficult to do. That was her part of that back and forth.
Yeah, so like one of the earliest parts would be in Samuel. I guess the word is Sabah, H6635.
Out of 1-3?
Out of H6635.
No, sorry. 1 Samuel 1-3, though. Is that the one you're talking about?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. It just it does imply though hosts of angels. I don't see people there. It does say warfare, army. So yeah, it sounds like it would be that. I mean,
hard time pulling up enough.
Saba H6634 or H6635. Yeah, I mean that's what it says. However, it's also used in other parts like Genesis 21, 22, where it talks about like an actual war.
Yeah, and I wonder if context of morality changes it, or if host is just host, because you have like the Lord of Hosts was the term for God.
Yeah, I mean, Ghost, I get what you're saying, like interchangeable light bearers. I like to go off of dissecting and what I have in front of me as accurately as possible, and then kind of build off of that. But yeah.
What plane it's happening on is important. I think it takes place on all planes. I think those people could be the ones Cain feared. I also think these people were governed over by other hosts. So people over people. So are they synonymous? Is that what you had initially said?
I don't. It sounds like, I mean, yeah, but it sounds like it's very specific though. Like if they're talking about like, war with Philistines, it's like exclusive, you know what I mean? And specified. It doesn't sound like it's kind of like, I don't know, open there to interpretation. I'm gonna go with demons. That's kind of the implication I get here. It could mean other things, of course.
You mean in this context, you think it's demons?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ghost said too, is like all it is a container. So I think maybe it's one of those things that would be entirely contingent upon context. Because a host, it's used a lot for a lot of different things, even in the Bible, for like Lord of Hosts, depending on translation.
A group of beings, whether they're physical, metaphysical, any of that, but it's definitely a group of beings for a specific cause, united by a specific cause. That seems to be the overall definition.
It could be, God, this is fucking deep, but there over 300 times is used depending on translation.
Mm-hmm.
Within context,
I have 486 times.
I think that would include like a host of a dinner, because it's used a lot more times if you include like somebody was a host. Is it a different term?
Yeah, because, like I said, this one is specifically army or groups of angels. It says, it even talks about like sun, moon, and stars, but it says warfare, service, to go out for war or service. So it seems to be, like I said.
So Ghost, why do you think they're people? Because I guess it could be anything. It could be people that are the hosts of something. Like you said, what did you say? One of those ruling over other hosts. And then you said the Russian dolls thing, which I get. But at the end of the day, like the origin it's got to be somewhere on the spectrum of morality.
Yeah.
The Russian doll goes back to something, and it's either good or evil. I just wonder why. I guess I don't disagree with it. I'm not sure. Maybe as we keep reading, I'll have an opinion, but I wonder why you think people specifically, like why there wouldn't be additional demons. So do you think all demons have a host that they can't be present like in their form? Because they had that whole thing here a couple weeks ago.
I don't think so.
About the image of what they're calling Satan, right? It's both. Fair enough. Audio, armed personnel, great multitude. Yeah, I'd want to look into the. I'm curious now a little bit on this too. Yes, they need bodies. Okay, see that part interests me because I'm not sure where I hit with that. I don't. So do you think any scenario where like somebody says they've seen a demon and it was like this otherworldly thing, do you just see that as a different type of host, or is that them like at the core, or is everything a host until you get to the actual evil, whether you call it Satan or the devil or whatever you want to call it? So they're all hosts.
I think so.
Of some kind.
Yeah. Only because I see that in Job.
Yeah.
And when they're talking about God, they say, the Lord of the hosts, so.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess if you trace it all back, literally everything is just a host of some kind. Nothing really lives on its own or came from itself. They've attached to the mind. That's the only way that they can be seen.
That. No. Well,
that they've attached to the mind.
That's the only way they can be referenced.
It's the only way they can be seen.
Right, but not referenced. So I don't know, but yeah.
What do you mean? Or maybe I'm not understanding.
He's saying like the hosts have to attach to the mind, and that's the only way they can be seen, but that doesn't mean that's the only way they can be referenced. Like, so if you take the conversation in Job where it talks about this council, this host, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like it's this dialogue, or I don't want to say court trial or hearing, but something like that in another realm.
But even during that, wouldn't those also be hosts, just higher up in the Russian doll scale?
Yeah, host. But again, I don't think it's attached to a mind or anything like that. It's just.
So how does it integrate with the host? Like if you imagine evil as the childish view, like a floating dark fucking orb, and good as a floating gold orb, it has to connect to something, a host. So on Earth we have people hosts. Well, that's kind of what Ghost is saying. I mean, you don't have to agree with it.
I disagree. Yeah, that's why I'm disagreeing. Okay. Because I don't think it has to.
Do you believe you can see the floating orb?
I don't know that you can. I don't know that you cannot. All I'm saying is I don't believe that there needs to be a tangible hardware or whatever hosts.
Interesting. No, the mind is the host. Hardware hosts are only hardware for spirits to interface with. Yeah, I agree with that, but I think in a different way. But I definitely get where both of you are coming from. I don't know. My view of it is limited to the human perspective. I think that's true here. I don't necessarily believe that's true elsewhere. I don't believe all of reality outside of Earth plays by the same rules and requirements of hardware and software here, personally.
Exactly.
But it very well could.
Very well could. I just don't like that I don't have a concordance to go up, because normally I have that to kind of, have some ideas or whatnot. But
yeah, it's really frustrating.
It is what it is, yeah.
It's very frustrating. I think for some of them, you can find them, but I think it's very few and far between. And
you said that, and I think you said they weren't even reliable.
They're not at all reliable, no. But it's interesting, these aren't reliable, but they're interesting. It wouldn't hurt. You just can't take it too serious. All right. The first prophecy of the resurrection. Oh, here we go. Then the word of God came and said, O Adam, who counseled thee when thou earnest out of the cave to come to this place? And Adam said unto God, O Lord, we came to this place because of the heat of the fire that came upon us inside the cave. Then the Lord God said, Unto Adam, O Adam, thou dreadest the heat of the fire for one night, but how will it be when you dwell in hell? Yet, O Adam, fear not, neither say in your heart that I have spread this rock as an awning over you to plague you therewith. It came from Satan, who has promised you the Godhead in majesty. It is he who threw down this rock to kill you under it, and Eve with you, and thus to prevent you from living upon the earth. Verse 3 sounds like the summer of Las Vegas. I can't even imagine. It's hot here. I would hate to live in Vegas. It came from Satan. I can't even imagine, dude. I can't deal. It came from Satan, who had promised the Godhead of majesty. It is he who threw the rock down this. It is he who threw down this rock to kill you under it, and Eve with you, and thus to prevent you from living upon the earth. But in mercy for you, just as that rock was falling down upon you, I commanded it to form an awning over you, the rock under you to lower itself, and the rock under you to lower itself. And this sign, O Adam, will happen to me at my coming upon earth. Satan will rise, and people of the Jews, Joe put me to death. And they will lay me in a rock and seal a large stone upon me, and I shall remain within that rock 3 days and 3 nights. But on the third day I shall rise again, and it shall be salvation to thee, O Adam, and to thy seed to believe in me. But, O Adam, I will not bring you from under this rock until 3 days and 3 nights are past. Interesting. So they're running a parallel story.
I have so many questions here.
Yeah, me too. What, like,
it sounds like where it talks about like that holding place, you know? I don't want to say purgatory.
Like Sheol or different?
Yeah. Something like that. Whatever their holding place is until, you know, the ascension, resurrection, whatever.
Yeah.
And then there they're at. Huh.
Yeah, I can see that. This kills me dating wise. I want to know dating. I want to know who wrote it. I want to know when they wrote it.
Super detailed, specific stuff.
All right. My cynical mind is just upset.
Right. BS. Yeah, I get it.
Right. The concept spirit of freedom, love, hate, joy, envy, etc. needs a brain. Otherwise, they don't actually exist. That's why souls and spirits are on a continuum that rely on each other. I get that. And I agree with it here. But I'm of the really weird opinion that like none of that. What if none of that applies anywhere else? What if emotions only exist here? What if you go somewhere else and emotions literally don't exist? I just don't know.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I just don't know. I'm very open to being dead ass wrong, and all of those things being constant across every plane of reality. Like I totally accept it as a possibility. I don't know. I just struggle with that. If that's the case, though, then I'm in absolute agreement. I think they would have to connect somehow to a host always. Otherwise, there'd be no way for them to perpetuate anything or to like function. I'm just not sure. I don't know. It's one of those things that. What's that?
Separate from emotions, like I mean, who's to say there's even like a morality there?
I mean, fair. That's one thing I do think there is. But it's just as fair of a question as mine. It's just one that I think there is. Because my general big picture belief is that this all is some kind of fucking war. In which like morality would be required. But even then, no, it's not. It could be just a totally arbitrary war because two people piss each other off. But that would require emotion. Otherwise, you can't upset somebody if they don't have emotion.
I mean, it almost seems like where their loyalty lies, you know, or okay, I'm a host for this or that, and I'll go on this side and that side, and these are the rules I have to play by in this realm, dimension, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Right. But there have to be contention. I guess, like, in the grand scheme of other planes of reality or beyond them, if it was a thing over land or over ruling of the planes or something, I guess emotions wouldn't have to be involved, and in which case maybe it is just a loyalty thing or where you're from. Like, I don't know. That's the type of shit that, like, thinking about it seems like a joke. Well, after the time of Jesus, Sheol, emotions are just electricity. Right, but why does that have to exist anywhere else? I infinitely regress to the same statement every time, so I'm no fun to talk to at all. It's one of the things, like, I look forward to dying for one reason, and this is the reason, is that I hope to learn what is actually going on.
Yeah, I have a million questions.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to be such an asshole to whoever has to deal with me when I die.
Yeah.
But if all of that is the case, I'm in absolute agreement. I agree with all of it, 100%. I'm just not convinced that it is. And yeah, I don't know. I just get stuck on it pretty hard.
Yeah.
We all know, because all we know is that like produces like right here. We know that here. I will infinitely regress no matter what you say. Well, that's not true. Maybe you'll say something that changes my mind, but 99 times out of 100, I'll infinitely regress to the same thing. We know that here. We know jack shit about anywhere else. We know nothing. It's so ignorant to think we know anything about anything else. It's all contingent upon information, data, and function here. We have no way to even test or even wonder with like any semblance of intelligence from my perspective. Maybe other people do, because they see or understand things I don't. But in my limited capacity, it just seems fruitless. Therefore, we know about heaven by studying earth, because heaven... God, I hate YouTube. It cuts off the end. Because heaven created earth, and light creates like. From what we can tell. From what we can tell. I wouldn't say... I'm with Rodriguez on this one part, apparently. I don't think we know that. I think from what we can tell, that's true. So from what we can tell, I 100% agree. I don't know that beyond here. We understand how things function here that we can study and like observe, and I just don't know why it'd have to be like that anywhere else. It relies on the assumption that God will communicate with us. Right. So the one part that does get me is that from like a biblical perspective, I'd have to, at least to a degree, agree with you. Because from a biblical perspective only, like does create like. And we have a pretty clear like understanding and representation of what you just said, which is God's desire, and it's almost like a need to be able to communicate. In which case, like would have to be very similar. All communication requires compatibility interface. Right. So from a biblical perspective, you're kind of forced to agree. I don't fit perfectly there, though. I think it's a piece. I don't think it's the totality. Pastora. But yeah, biblically, I agree. I think I'd be lying if I said you weren't totally right from my view, from a biblical perspective. I think it's hard to argue. It's all very, very clear that we're spitting images in a spiritual sense and otherwise, I guess. I just like, if God made the earth and it's this tiny little speck of dust on my finger and there's all this other shit, like maybe it's true for our little speck of dust, but if God is infinite and there's a zero box around him whatsoever, there's no reason that even on the same plane or a different plane or whatever, or outside of the planes of reality, he couldn't just create a totally different thing that was absolutely different in every possible way. Heaven is different.
Right, different rules.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. In which case, maybe their biblical story will be like makes like also, but it's not, you would never be able to understand it compared to ours. Be absolutely ass backwards, and totally different.
Yeah.
This is why I can't sleep.
Yeah.
Terrible. All right, on the third day, blah blah. Anyway, I just really wish we could date this. I'm such a fucking cynic. Verse 10. And God withdrew his word from Adam. There's that again. His word. But Adam and Eve abode under the rock 3 days and 3 nights, and as God had told them. And God did so to them, because they had left their cave and had come to this same place without God's order. But after 3 days and 3 nights, God opened the rock and brought them out from under it. Their flesh was dried up, Their eyes and their hearts were troubled from weeping and sorrow. Goes, the problem is inconveniences. Adam and Eve seek to cover their nakedness. I feel like we already talked about this. Then Adam and Eve went forth. Is it happening again?
Bro, I don't even know.
Then Adam and Eve went forth and came into the cave of treasures, and they stood praying in it the whole of the day until the evening. And this took place at the end of 50 days after they had left the garden. But Adam and Eve rose again and prayed to God in the cave the whole of that night and begged for mercy from him. And when the day dawned, Adam said unto Eve, Come, let us go and do some work for our bodies. So they went out of the cave and came to the northern border of the garden, and they sought something to cover their bodies withal. But they found nothing, and knew not how to do the work. Yet their bodies were stained, and they were speechless from the cold and heat. Then Adam stood and asked God to show him something wherewith to cover their bodies. Then came the word of God, and said unto him, O Adam, take Eve and come to the seashore, where ye fasted before. There you shall find skins of sheep, whose flesh was devoured by lions, and whose skins were left. Take them and make raiment for yourself, and clothe yourself withal. Very odd.
Question.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not saying that there's a contradiction, but to some degree, this isn't really mentioned in this way in Genesis. So this is kind of like, I don't know, how do we decipher which narrative, you know what I mean, is
To go off of?
Yeah.
Well, so this is supposed to be after. And
Right.
so both is like the answer. For somebody who accepts the Apocrypha, the answer is both. You're supposed to go off of Genesis and then come here, basically.
I guess
it's just confusing.
The way Genesis kind of, and it's my understanding that the way it's implied in Genesis, it's almost like they kind of show up fully clothed, and God's like, well, what happened? Not that he was kind of involved in to this degree.
Right, but they're not parallel. So like it's not a story of the same time. It's supposed to be after.
It's a duplicate?
No. I think it's not a duplicate. I think it's an extension of the story of Genesis. The reason it's confusing is because it doesn't make sense with Genesis.
All right.
Timeline, people. There's a million different reasons it doesn't make sense with Genesis. But my understanding, and somebody can definitely correct, but my understanding is that this is a pick up where you left off in Genesis type of story, and it's supposed to continue it on. And so you get these like flashbacks, which have been plentiful, of what happened in the garden, which is fine, and that all connects and makes sense. But then you get all of this other stuff that conflicts, or at the very least, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't click.
Okay, so Genesis is the Cliff Notes, right?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's just it's the same story. Like if you look at it like this,
yeah, but it's like the condensed, shortened.
It's just the earlier part. It's not even that, because like this isn't giving you the same story expanded. It's like Genesis is Genesis 1, this is Genesis 2, and the second book of this is Genesis 3. That's the way it's supposed to be read, from what I understand.
Like the preface? Okay.
Not even. They're just three books. Just three books.
Okay.
Just 3 books. But it just doesn't make sense, which is why your logical brain is trying to make it make sense, but it's not going to.
Okay.
It just doesn't work. Ruth Big.
It probably rarely does, and I'll just accept it. But okay, sorry, go ahead, continue.
You just kind of have to accept it, yeah.
Yeah.
They're trying to flesh out, no pun intended, the narrative. Right. It adds more of the story. It expands on the story, but it gives you these drawbacks to the story of the garden. But it's not meant to replace the story of the garden. It's in addition to, it's after the fact. I do think Genesis is a summary and response to the Mesopotamia understanding. Absolutely. 100%. 100%. Genesis is a shortened, condensed version of a story that already existed, which is my gripe with the literal interpretation.
Wait, bro, that's literally what I just said. That's why I said
But
it's like
not
clip notes.
but not in comparison to this. Not if I'm using this as a like the book we're reading right now as what we're talking about, I wouldn't say that. In reference to the Mesopotamian stories, I would say that. Because
Okay.
Genesis is a condensed version, in my opinion, of older Mesopotamian stories. I don't believe that about this. I don't think it's a condensed version about this. I think this picks up where it left off. And then just adds more context. A lot of stuff was taken for granted that are lost on us moderns. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think anybody who has not read Mesopotamian literature really needs to do it. It is eye-opening in terms of the Bible and other religions. It's eye-opening in general. Specifically, the origin stories. Very, very important. What time is it? Okay. Where is Ruth? I keep saying Big Ruth, my baby Ruth. Ruth is not here. Oh, Ruth said hello. Okay, I found the beginning of that. Got it. What is his beauty that you should have followed him? When Adam heard these words from God, he took Eve and removed from the northern end of the garden to the south of it by the river of water, where they once fasted. But as they were going in the way, and before they reached that place, Satan, the wicked one, had heard the word of God communing with Adam, respecting his covering. It grieved him, and he hastened to the place where the sheepskins were, with the intention of taking them and throwing them into the sea, or of burning them with fire, that Adam and Eve should not find them. Interesting. But as he was about to take them, the word of God came from heaven and bound him by the side of those skins until Adam and Eve came near him. But as they neared him, they were afraid of him and of his hideous look. So is this an ugly ass person, Ghost? Like from your perspective? Is this careful of the wheel? Is this just an ugly person? Or is this, because this is what they're calling Satan, is this the source of evil? Is this the end Russian doll in the very middle inside that no longer opens? I'm curious about that. But this is really odd. So Satan tries to steal the things. He gets bound by the clothes that they're coming to wear. God intervened. Then God came for the word of God and said to... Yeah, okay. Then came the word of God to Adam and Eve and said to them, "This is he who was hidden in the serpent and who deceived you and stripped you of the garment of light and glory in which you were. This is he who promised you majesty and divinity. Where then, and the beauty that was on him? Where then is the beauty that was on him? Where is his divinity? Where is his light? Where is the glory that rested on him?" This is badass. I'll come back to it though. Now his figure is hideous. He has become admonishable among angels, and he has come to be called Satan. O Adam, I he wished to take from you. O Adam, he wished to take from you this earthly garment of sheepskin and to destroy it and not let you be covered with it. What then is his beauty that you should have followed him? And what have you gained by hearkening to him? See his evil works and then look at me, your creator, and at the good deeds I do you. See, I bound him until you came and saw him and beheld his weakness, that no power is left him. This is he, going back, verse 6. This is he who promised you majesty and divinity. Where then is the beauty that was on him? Where is his divinity? Where is his light? Where is his glory that rested on him? I really like that. I really wish I could read that prior to translation. I would bet big money that at least here, but if not here, is absolute poetry. I bet it stands it hard.
Something interesting that I did find just on the word divine in Old Testament is it seems like it was synonymous with some emotions or attributes. So, like, you have divine anger that is mentioned twice or three times, divine wisdom, divine guidance, divine passion, divine knowledge. And it seems like there's a separation or distinction in Daniel 6, verse 7 of divine or human. So,
What is it? Do you have it there?
Daniel 6, 7, and then also Daniel 6, 12. It's just kind of like referencing. Actually, that's kind of
The
interesting.
royal administrators, perfect
Oh.
satraps, advisors, and governors have all agreed that the king should issue an edict and enforce the decree that anyone who prays to God or human being during the next 30 days, except I don't have it there. What you said is 6-7?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, hang on. Let me look up a different version.
The NIV doesn't have it.
Oh, I don't really mess with that one. Hang on.
I don't either. The ESV.
I think I looked it up in NLT or something. Let me see.
Human being. It's probably where it says any god, I would guess.
Right, which is
anyone who prays
spiritual entity
to divinity or a spiritual entity.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing about getting into words.
I know.
Is which one?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. What was the other one? Daniel 6-7 and Daniel 6-12?
I think so. But again, I think that was under NLT.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's any god. I'll bet you anything. In ESV or in NIV, that anyone who makes petition to any god or man, it's that same language in both of them.
Exactly.
So either way, though, like it's still usable. That's interesting. Huh. And then I lost it. Okay, here. The divinity of Christ is one of the most commons. God's divine power, divine healing, divine intervention, divine revelation. What's like the cookie cutter definition from a biblical perspective of the word divine?
Oh shit. Hang on.
I've got
you
relating.
Didn't pull up, like, the concordance.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what you have with whatever you're using. What this is saying is adjective relating to God, a deity having the nature of God. It can also mean God-like, heavenly, extraordinary, or a minister of the gospel, or a man skilled in divinity. That's not relevant.
Hang on, I'm looking it up.
Hey, Mikkel. I think divine means software and mundane means hardware.
I know, Ghost. I'm just trying to figure out what the Bible says, though.
Let me think. I need to... Yeah, while you find it, I need to process that for a minute. I think divine means software.
Yeah.
Mundane means hardware.
That would be Concordance H425. And it says, oh, that's interesting. A god, heathen deity. A god or god heathen deity, or like the actual god like of Israel.
Interesting. Okay. Huh.
I just want to make sure I got them all out there, so that way there's no bias. But a heathen deity. Now I have even more questions in my questions. Surprise.
Ghost fellows, I was digging around and found out that serpents can be found everywhere all around the world, even under the ocean rivers, except Antarctica. You mean, just to be clear, are we talking about snake serpents? Or like...
Are there other ones?
Demonic serpents. I just want to be clear. Yeah, snakes live, I think, in every environment on the planet, other than frozen ones. I'm pretty sure that's true. Yeah, it agrees with me. I'm just updating the language. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't disagree. the language gets me, and I have to think about it for a minute to remember what you mean by the terms that you use. But yeah, divine software from using your what would it be, lexicon, divine software, mundane hardware. I get it, and I agree.
Lexicon of ghost.
I think it's the ghost lexicon. It took a very long time for me to get a grip on the ghost lexicon, and it still trips me up sometimes. But I like the perspective. I don't even
know that AI can do it.
It's tough. He needs to make an AI. Ghost needs to make an AI for his spiritual perspective, so people
can. He might break the internet again, though.
It'd just be nice to be able to type in like a question using like mundane Christian terminology, and then it'd be like this, or it's copy and paste what Ghost says, and it'll be like, no, this is what he's saying in the terms of you peasants out there. This is what he's saying. I'm sad we can't have frost serpents. Yeah, it's really kind of sad because like the Arctic animals are they're just badass, and I feel like the Arctic tree snake, regular tree snakes are pretty badass. I feel like it would be just much more badass.
Hey, Ghost, I have a ghost lexicon question for you. So when it comes to like spiritual entities, right, and having a brain and hardware or whatever, are you implying that it would have to be human or animal, or you know what I mean?
Does it have to have a spirit or a soul?
No, I'm just trying to think where he's coming from when he says hardware or mindset. Like, is he
hardware or software? Are you talking about his last comment? Divine being software and mundane being hardware?
I don't know, one of his tons of comments.
That was one of them. Yeah. Yeah, the other I can't find. So humans, aliens, whatever.
There's the image.
Would it be any host?
Whatever. No, I wouldn't say whatever because that's not made in the image. But okay, I get you. Almost like a higher sense of, self-awareness, or
it'd be any host. That was my question. Yeah, so just any host from that view. So humans, aliens, whatever. I think Rodrigo, like, that's a good point though. Is would aliens be made in the image of God, or is that one of the things, like, we're using the term aliens in an improper way?
I hold more to like that whole trichotomy thing that I mentioned before, where it's like you have Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and then with us you have like body, soul, spirit. So that's where I believe.
So then technically though, aliens even in the traditional sense, the movie sense, they could be that if you have a body, a soul, and a spirit.
I would say aliens may fall more under the hosts department.
But what if they had the three?
Yeah, we do.
No, what if they did?
I think we were made. I don't think so. I think we were made in his image.
I don't care what you think. I'm asking, what if they did? You have to entertain the hypothetical. Say the alien, we catch one, and it has a body, and it has a soul, and it has a spirit. It hits all of them. So then would that be in the image of God to you, or no? There's no right or wrong answer.
Unless I can find like an actual text that verifies it where I can dissect it, then fine. But I mean, who knows? We could see ET there.
I mean, yeah. Who the hell knows?
Heaven. Or
I think aliens are human.
But then we get into morality, and
they could be moral too. What if they just look different? That's what I'm saying. It's like if they're little blue people.
I will say I agree with that. I have a feeling that these, whatever they are, assuming they exist, there's probably no definitive like, oh, they're all bad, they're all good, kind of like how people are.
Right.
Only because if we're entertaining it and we talk about other myths or whatever and we get into Nephilim, it doesn't seem like they were all quote unquote bad or quote unquote demonic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. Ghost said, I think aliens are humans. Anything other than human is created by humans. Anything other than human is created by humans. Like the Greys, I think that says. YouTube blocks this crap. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time with that. So what is our definition of alien? Because doesn't the
Ghost,
definition...
you're not driving. Why aren't you on here? I
Doesn't...
can't argue with you
Well,
like this.
I gotta go in just a minute.
Oh, yeah,
but
that's right.
but I do want to get to the bottom of this real quick, because the definition of alien, I assume that Ghost has a different definition in his lexicon, but the definition for alien from the Google machine is belonging to a foreign country or nation, which valid, that would be a human. A foreigner, especially one who is not a naturalized citizen or... So I guess not even his lexicon.
You have a non-political version?
No, that's political. It's
right.
It's continental, national. So I'm wrong, actually. I'll own that. I'm using a media hyped definition of alien. When I think of an alien, I think of spaceships and all the stupid bullshit. I either think of that or I think of like angels and demons when I think of alien, because that is alien to this. But I guess Ghost is probably using the literal definition, in which case he's totally right. 100% right. Because that's just
where aliens are humans?
Yeah. Because the noun and the adjective Google gives you, if he's using just the normal definition, then he's absolutely right. It's somebody belonging, a human, to a different country or nation, or somebody who is not a naturalized citizen of the country where they're living. There's no argument there. It's 100% right. So I guess looking at it outside of that, in the perspective of like an alien to this reality.
Non-earthly beings.
Right. Not in our fishbowl. That I wonder about.
Non-earthly surface beings, because then I have some ideas on inner earth and all that we haven't talked about, but yeah.
Right. So they're it's a different word for light bearer. So is any other conscious being from anywhere? I guess it would, from our earlier conversation. They would all fit that mold for you. Because you believe to some degree they're all the same or built the same way. They could, through with electricity and how they function. So I guess they would all fit that mold for you. So very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Well, I think, did we finish this? So I bound him. I think 10. So God is, yeah, because this was the one that I loved, 6. Because it's very beautiful and poetic and paints a very good picture. And then I think we came to 10. So ending this, see, I bound him until you came and saw him and beheld his weakness, bound Satan, that no power is left with him. And God released him from his bonds. Okay. I don't think other planets have humans on them too. I think other planets have humans on them too. I don't think there are sentient spiders out there. I think we all look very similar. Interesting. I wonder what you base that off of. Or if it's just like, yeah, I can't grasp that. My brain can't even begin to grasp that. And genetically compatible as far as offspring are concerned.
I could ride with that one.
Really?
Yeah, actually.
I'm the odd man out here. I don't think either way, but I find that just as unlikely as magic spiders. I think it's just as unlikely.
From like a science perspective, right? And how you can have a liger, and certain things like that.
Right, but that's running off the logic that we have any reason to believe that life other places is like life here. And I think we have fucking zero reason to believe that. I think it could be absolutely true. I just think we have absolutely nothing to say that is true. I think it's a coin toss.
Not that we're aware.
Right. So like, show me something. What is anything that makes us believe that that's the case? We know that here. I have a really hard time with that anywhere else. Genetically compatible as far as offspring go, because our bodies rely on constants like physics. Right. Ours do. The conditions produce the structure.
Physical beings. You need a certain amount of DNA for it to be close enough. I know, like we have very close DNA with chimpanzees. So I don't know if they've done that.
I'm not a part of Chimp Gate. I don't believe that
No,
shit.
no, no. Like I'm
I'm
telling
just
you, like
kidding. I'm just kidding.
biology, like that's what they tell you.
I
Like
know.
our dogs, as prissy as my little boy is 99.9% the same as wolf, and I'm assuming he could reproduce. That thing would turn out, but
Right.
he's
I'm
very prissy.
laws are constants, therefore there has to be some sort of homogeneity in the universe. I'm with it here.
I think the laws can change and adapt. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff.
I don't know. I'm 100% open to being dead ass wrong, and maybe if I get lucky, I'm right. I totally get it, and from my earthly perspective, it's hard to disagree with it. But when I think wider, I just don't see why any of it would have to be true. I get why it could be true. I can completely comprehend like the process that one would get to that conclusion. I just don't understand why it have to be true. I just think it could be anything. The laws could be entirely different. They could be upside down. Everything that makes us solid could be in reverse, and all beings could be fluid because they don't require the same structural soundness that we do in order to function. I don't know. I need more time to put forth more complete arguments. Yeah, I think this would be a great, like, we skip a Thursday and maybe talk about this stuff, because this is interesting stuff.
Yeah, because there's a lot of science just behind it in terms of like, and then also when you do reproduce, and you have your liger, there's a huge chance that being can't even reproduce because the DNA is so damaged and it's barren or whatever you want. I don't know. There's a lot of science though too.
Right.
Realm,
I get stuck on the plane where a liger doesn't exist. Breathing doesn't exist. Eyes don't exist. Vision doesn't exist. The scent or the senses don't exist. Why do they have to exist somewhere else? Why is that required? I think we do that because we are incapable of conceiving a world in which they don't exist. That's where I get stuck. I think it's ignorant.
Instructions, right? Like in Leviticus, where we're told not to be doing these things.
What do you mean? Not to be thinking about these things?
No, not to be mixing stuff up like this.
I mean, right. But
even see.
But doesn't that prove that something else exists? I'm not saying that because I think if we exegeted that, it would not prove my point at all. But the thought.
It's true, but what I'm telling you is that it's because it technically can branch off to a whole new species. There's a lot of issues when it comes to reproduction. Like it almost makes you barren. Like there's almost like this supernatural, whatever you want to call it, law that just kind of cuts it off and like, no, you can't reproduce. You're something else.
Right.
Like I said, there's a whole science. There's a
whole science. In the world I'm talking about, science doesn't exist because none of the laws of reality exist. That's where I get trapped. Hardware.
If we're talking about this place,
yeah,
though.
Here, 100%. Ghost, the conditions, potentinations. Hardware will always have metabolism.
That has nothing to do with DNA not being damaged enough to the point where you can't.
DNA doesn't exist in the world that I'm talking about. I just don't see why it has to.
Maybe. It's just your blueprint of what it is.
I think you're talking about the deep, Joe. Possibly. I picture it like so big it makes me want to throw up because it makes me feel very lost. Chaotic potential, the sand, yeah. I don't see why anything would have to be the same. And then in that next place where nothing is the same, I don't see why the third place would have to have any of the things that World 1 or 2 had. And I think it just could be infinite like that, because the only things we are able to sit here and even have a thought about are the things that are here. But that is so small.
I
to
think
me.
there's also like a timeline though, right? So like we see in Genesis how once upon a time God and Adam and Eve were X, Y, and Z, and then it turned into something else because of X, Y, and Z. So even when it comes to, creating different species and different breedings, like we'll just take like the Nephilim and things like that, for example. Like it's possible that once upon a time things were and no longer are.
I mean, yeah, yeah. I think go so maybe we're semantically stuck, but go say I'm talking about the deep, which is probably true. But I'm saying parallels to this, I think, could even potentially exist in the realm of what I'm talking about. But in the deep, I think for sure, I don't think anything really exists there. At least nothing that we could even begin to try to comprehend. I don't think you're talking about the world. I'm definitely not, because I think the world does play by the rules that you guys are talking about. I definitely grasp that.
I also think though that the rules change. Our lifespan was cut short. There's all kinds of stuff.
The rules definitely change, but I mean, like the fundamental rules of reality haven't really changed. Like how, like I guess the things that we've
That's
kind of been talking about.
Yeah.
You're talking about the thing that inhabits the world. Every component to a system, it has to be compatible, though. Right, but there are thousands of systems, and each system, in this system, we live here, so we can understand how this system works because I can see it and I can smell it and I can touch it and I can feel it. We're integrated to the system. We're connected to the system. Therefore, we can comprehend and understand the system. If God, who is connected to other things that we have absolutely no connection to, zero, God is connected to those things too. Those are entirely different systems that function on zero of the same things as our system functions on. I just don't see why that wouldn't be possible. I don't see why it wouldn't be probable. The Lord help us, Tampa said, I'm with you. I'm glad somebody is. I think other dimensions may be beyond our comprehension right now. That's my biggest point, is that we can only comprehend what we can conceive, and we can only conceive the shit that is here. You cannot conceive something that you have not experienced. It's how the human brain functions. So to think that's all that exists, to me, is just like super ignorant. It's super ignorant for me, just me.
Right.
But I think that if there are beings somewhere else that experience entirely different shit, they can't comprehend here because they're not here. I just can't grasp like this concept of like, well, this is it. This is it. We don't understand the spiritual side of shit, but we totally understand all this. This is all there is. Everything functions in these same basic rules and functions. It makes me want to throw up. I just find it so unlikely.
Shit our on the other side.
What's that?
When we find out, we're all gonna shit our pants on the other side when we find out what is or isn't there and what it is or isn't.
Yeah. And I think even then, honestly, I think I'm going to be disappointed because I don't think when you die, you get to know anything at all. I think you get to know the one little thing that was connected to this reality. So now extrapolate this. You die in this world, you get to go to this world's heaven or hell, which is one of 100 million different machines of systems of heavens and earths and hells, and none of them ever know about it. That's what I actually think is going to happen. I'm telling you, this shit, like,
so I have no answers
nightmares
to any of these questions. I have non-alcoholic beer and no caffeinated.
I think we'll get answers to this world. So, like the things that Ghost is talking about that pertain to this system, I think those will be answered. I do. I think my stupid ass brain will be left completely answerless because I would like to know about the other stuff going on out there.
What scares me though is like, it seems like in the afterlife there is some kind of like you forget who you are, what is and isn't, and I won't even remember my questions.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised about that either. Or if you just get like a direct download and everything is just shot into you, but you feel like you've understood it the whole time. But if God is universe, I don't see why he would create incompatible systems. But why not? Like if I'm the operator of a server room, I have many servers that function on one system because they collaborate. I could have in the same room even, but I could be a server master at a place 5 minutes away where those systems are entirely disconnected and they have nothing to do with these. They're all isolated systems. They're not connected to the internet. They're local isolated systems. They function amongst themselves, but they connect to nothing outside of their room. I get what you're saying, truly. I don't see why it would have to be that way. I don't see why it would be that way. It seems small to me. But maybe it's just because I want it to be fantastical. I want it to be so much more than it is. Maybe I have little man syndrome, and I feel like our world is it's me, a little man in a little world, and it makes me depressed. I don't know. That would be very inconvenient and convoluted for you as the administrator.
In your opinion, well, though, like,
but because I'm not God. If you're God, it wouldn't be like that, because God could be clued into them all at the same time very comfortably in his chair. I'm just, as an example, if I was doing that, yeah, it would be more complicated. But if I really wanted separation, then I could do it. But God being infinite and wondrous, he could do it all completely separate, sitting in the same place, hypothetically, or metaphorically, and still have complete control. It wouldn't be inconvenient for God. It would be inconvenient for a human under human rule, but it wouldn't be inconvenient for God.
Yeah, and it would look like this. Ghost, it would be like, he would pull up your Lexington ghost, your ghost Lexington, and be like, oh, is this what he thinks? Well, I'm going to throw in this wrench and do this whole other mindfuckery thing, and it'll end up being something else.
I think that's very possible, too. I don't like to picture God as an asshole, but I think that's very possible.
I'm not saying he's an asshole. He's just,
Which means all of those systems would have to be compatible with God. Right, which then brings you to the fact with the whole, well, if they're compatible with God and we're made in the image of God, doesn't that transfer down to that? And I get the logic of it. It just seems simple to me. It seems like the buck could stop as far as that, call it a firewall inside of God, where God is interconnected to all the systems who have absolutely nothing to do with each other. They're isolated local systems not connected to the internet. All of them connected to God, but God has a firewall so that they can all connect to God. But when God passes his own image down to the systems, the other systems do not pass with it. It is God isolated who passes with it. Administrator functions only. I don't know, but now I'm late because this was really good. We should plan to talk about this because I think we could do this shit all night. It's very interesting, and it makes me not be able to sleep because I am just so unsatisfied. But my kid's in school, so I got to go to bed. He's not an asshole. I think he's just misunderstood. He's awesome. I agree. I don't think he throws wrenches on purpose. I agree with that. Yes. I agree with that. All right. I love you guys. I got to roll. Sunday we'll do Genesis. Next Thursday we'll get back on this. If somebody reminds me, we'll replace either a Sunday or a Thursday with a topic again. At some point soon. We'll just do it randomly or whatever when we have a good topic like this, because this has been very interesting. Other than that, I'm out. Love you guys. Love you guys. Love you guys.